Matt Wilson here again, IATF Commissioner, coming at you with another video of our coaching and troubleshooting series here that we put together. I hope you've already seen our fundamentals of coaching, which covered grip, stance, and body movement. And then we followed that up with troubleshooting an over-rotating axe, which had the 3 stages of solving over-rotation, of lean in, follow through, floor positioning, and then the emergency thumb handbrake technique. I hope you've seen those. This video, we're going to cover under rotation, which is perhaps a little less common than the over rotation, but still quite prevalent with new throwers and is a little more challenging to solve. So let's talk through the 3 stages of how to solve an under rotating axe. And it does very much parallel the stuff we talked about in over rotation. So to review, over rotation, if this is the target, the axe is rotating past the blade, so it's not going to make good contact and stick because it's not contacting where the sharp or where the blade area is. Under rotation is the same, but the other way around. We're not getting all the way around, so we're hitting with the handle, maybe hitting with the handle and then seeing the head snap in and fall down, or the head might be making blade contact, but at the same time, it's not quite there, so the handle is hitting at the same time, stealing some of the momentum from the blade, and so it doesn't stick, and it just kind of falls straight down. Typically, under rotation is coming from a source of like timidness from the thrower. They're nervous about being here. They haven't done this before. They don't want to commit in that forward motion towards the target. So you'll see often, I'll demonstrate here, that somebody who's got an under rotating throw is often coming back, and then as they're going forward, they're kind of nervous. They're not putting their weight on that front foot, and they're kind of approaching things like this with the axe head staying back instead of coming forward like so. They're kind of going like, ha. And like almost putting their hands out even as they release the axe, so which does not give it a good forward intention, does not create forward motion as they release the axe. So it kind of floats in and kind of can straight up spear sometimes and bounce off and have almost no rotation, all the way from any variation of just not making it around to the blade. So again, the first thing to solve, to coach to solve this, is the same as the first step for an over-rotating axe, and that is to encourage them to lean in and follow through. Try and encourage that forward bodily intention towards the target. In this case, though, the follow-through is the higher priority, whereas an over-rotating axe, the leaning in and putting the weight on the front foot is more of the priority. But still, the tips are the same. Lean in, follow through strong, really commit to the throw. And so we try and encourage them to make sure that with telling them to lean in and put their body weight forward, hopefully that will also translate to them reaching forward and letting go of the axe right in front. But this is where I'll highlight, be like, we really want to follow through strong. Let the axe in front and follow through strong so that hopefully they come all the way forward. So that's the first tip to give somebody who's got an under rotation that you're having trouble with. And then, if that doesn't work, the next thing to do is, and hopefully you'll, with that, you'll see some improvement, but maybe you don't get complete success. Maybe before they were doing this, hitting here, and now they're kind of hitting here. So we made progress, but they're not successful yet. The next thing to do is exactly as the parallel of over rotation. We're going to create more distance between their release point and the target, and we're going to do that by moving them farther away from the target in their throwing position. So I would say the same as we did with over rotation. I'd say, okay, we're doing okay. You've got a good motion now. The follow through is coming. But what we're going to do is create a little more distance, and I'll explain to them, you're hitting like this. So we need to just create a little more space so that the axe can get all the way around to the blade. So I'd say back up. Let's try one from the line, or perhaps even try one from behind the line, depending on how drastic their under rotation is. All right, so lean in, follow through with the focus on the follow through and the fluid motion. And then the second troubleshooting stage is to move them farther back. One thing that you will find is quite common, though, is because the source of this is like a lack of confidence in the throw. Once you've moved them back and they've now been successful and sunk an axe, maybe 2, maybe 3, they start gaining that confidence that we're gunning for, and now they start to throw with more forward intention from their body, and so they'll follow through strong. And now what commonly happens is, a few throws into successfully sinking, they're starting to now over rotate because you've got them to that confident place where they're leaning in and follow through properly. So you may find after you move them back that a few throws in, You have to go back to them and say, hey, you're doing great. You're now following through super strong and your form looks awesome. So we're going to move you back, closer to the target again. And I find if you just explain exactly what's happened to them like that, so that you can say, hey, no, you've just continued to improve. So now we're going to move you back closer to the line where we started. That they understand that and they're excited about it, and it's a positive, tip to give. But keep an eye out for that. Once you move them back, don't think that it's all solved. It's very common that then they'll start to over-rotate and you'll have to come in and do a little more troubleshooting for that. The third and final sort of last-ditch effort, so to speak, to solve an under-rotating axe, the same way that we recommend the thumb as a handbrake in the over-rotation in extreme situations only, we have a similar solve for the under-rotation that we never teach in fundamentals and stay away from. But in unique scenarios where someone's just not figuring it out, I will actually tell them to flick as they release the axe. I'd say come all the way forward and flick your wrist as you let it go, as an attempt to get them to figure out what that motion really feels like. Lean in, follow through, focusing on the follow through. Then we're going to move them positionally on the floor, back them up to create more space. Keep in mind, once that happens, you might have to move them back forward as they gain confidence and commonly start to over-rotate. And then the final last-ditch effort is the flick your wrist. Go ahead, flick your wrist. It's okay. And this is another one, too, where encouraging them to let it rip, give it a little more juice, like anything you can do to help them feel positive about throwing the axe, because a lot of this, again, comes from being timid. There's not a lot of effort put into it or energy or strength because they're nervous. So those are all good ways to tackle that. All right, the under rotation is much harder for me to do on purpose because, yeah, but we got a couple of good examples here. So I don't know if you can see how well you can see this one. We're using the composite axe, so that doesn't mean there's no paint on the handle. If there's a paint on the handle, it would have left a paint mark, but that is exactly there, that hit in there. And then you can see a couple of these straight ones where I connected, like here, it's hard to see, but there's a faint wear of this, where it snapped and then hit there. We have a very thin straight line of basically matching almost the full face of the blade. So the bottom hit there, snapped that in, and then it fell straight down. These ones are good ones to indicate with somebody who's throwing and just say like, hey, it hit like this. You're right there. You don't need to do much more. Just finish strong, and give them that encouragement to just follow through strong. And it can usually be enough to just, change that the shape of how that lands. So yeah, there you go.